Yeah, so sorry for the delay. Oh, but no. But see, Greg, before I say this, because we were discussing before, I had to show you some of those clips, catch up on what I've been seeing. But you can see that people could see that on the little stuff before. I do gaming, and then I had to cut up Riley's stuff because there's a lot of misinformation going about it. So I cut those up myself. I still have more, but half of them are private for some reasons till I need them, or for people to use. But we were discussing about the Acolyte. Yeah, see, my view on the Acolyte is it was kind of meh. It's like it's a good period. The High Republic
Yeah, I
is
want
a
to
good.
see that period. It's
It's a
an
good
awesome period in the
period.
books. Yeah.
The books are not great. Suppose from what I've seen, a couple, they're not getting good reviews on the High Republic.
Only Yeah, I only read one that was based in that time, and it just seemed like a cool time. I'd be
But
hard
the
pressed to remember the
writers,
plot, but it's
their
like
teams.
the Jedi are reigning, and they're kind of like
Okay, so
it's a much better time.
the premise of the Acolyte is it's set like 200 years prior in the High Republic, where the Jedi and other Sith, like they're not really seeing a lot of Sith since like the Rule of Two. So the Sith have gone into hiding. You don't really see a lot of plots. It's the Jedi becoming bigger, decadent. You know what happens. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the Jedi become prideful. So the idea is the show takes place 100 years before. But the period is really interesting because the Jedi become the sole military force, the enforcers of the Republic, that type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and it's like damn near like a utopian time, if you will. So it could be a very cool time to actually depict on screen, and we've never seen it before, so they could make it extremely unique. But yeah, it doesn't feel super unique and like a super different time to me. Do you think they capture that High Republic feel?
I think they did. Like, I think I'm not saying like Andor. It's funny how Andor is getting a lot of views, like Andor, but Andor wasn't a bad show. Andor was better than the later Mandalorian. Like, you don't
Yeah, I
need
think
Jedi
Andor
to
is my
sell.
favorite show. It really holds up. I actually went back and watched it a second time. I dig that. There's a lot of really good scenes. The first time I watched it, I thought it was going one direction because there's the mystery of the sister. I thought that's what we're doing the whole season, and I didn't like the shift that was kind of just a device to get to the real plot. But yeah, I really appreciated it the second time.
Which I agree, right? Now, the big twist is that well, first off, if you're going to use the Night Sisters, which is the race that Darth Maul is, they use Force alchemy. They don't really use the Force. They can use the Force, but they mostly use Force alchemy.
Don't they call it magic with a K?
Well, it's weird because the Night Sisters are their own. But like, if you ask people, it's like when I was in Kida's Discord, I asked, do they know what the Night Sisters are? The Night Sisters, as everyone knows it, are the ones that look like female Darth Mauls. You see a couple. The planet was pretty much bombed into oblivion or whatever, attacked by the Imperium Post. Uh, Similar to Mandalore, but not as bad. It's kind of like, but the Night Sisters, they are dark side aligned, more of them, but they are more use what is called Force alchemy. They can't excessively use the Force; they're Force sensitive, but they cannot use the Force fully. There's a couple of so that's why you see like occasionally they were like low level enforcers and stuff. That's actually why in the series it's Legacy of the Force. which is the actual successor era to the Galactic Republic, when Darth Krat takes over the Empire, forms a second Galactic Empire, that he uses a lot, like Darth Talon in them, as enforcers for them. So it's an interesting period because the idea of the Night Sisters and what they're capable of is, I'm not saying that they could, but the fact there's a human and then there's the other. And see, episode 4 is supposed to, it's 3 and 4, which are supposed to be really bad. Now, the funny part about this is I have watched this show as well as I have tried to watch the new Doctor Who. Pausing is, new Doctor Who is cringe, all right? It's very destructive. And I think the Rotten Tomatoes is roughly about the same, except for the, what is it? Critic score. What do you think on that, Gray?
I really know nothing about the new Doctor Who. We watched those few specials and kind of talked about those, but yeah, I didn't follow on at all since then.
So the thing about it is,
I've seen the controversy though. I'm aware of it. I was never really into it. So I don't know. I feel like it's not for me, and I don't know. I feel like they got really
how do I
weird
describe
with the whole
this?
Jodie Whittaker thing. So
How do I
feel like it's
describe
necessarily
this season?
new.
They call this season a reboot or season 1 under Disney. The first line in the season is the Doctor Who. Yes, we know he's gay. He goes, "I just got snowballed by multiple guys at a club." The second episode had Jinx Monsoon in it. More gay references, like the other episodes are doing it. They had an episode where they literally went to a future version or a weird version of London, which is supposed to culminate in the episode. "Oh, you go. Oh, we can't help you. We can't go with you because we purged your kind." What? Not white people? So it's either a message, the quote unquote the message, or you're gay or you're bigoted. Like they literally had a whole episode literally targeted at the BBC offices. It's like called the bubble. People walk around in a like a phone around apparatus around their head where they can see nothing but social media. And it's nothing but a bunch of white people and other things. It's a very
That doesn't
weird.
sound as diverse as it could be.
No, it's a very weird, like, and there's a line at the end. It goes, "But I could save you guys. I could find you a better home planet." She doesn't know that her home planet or the forest, they can go back and live in the forest because their home planet was eaten. And it's like, "But we can't help you because you're not like us. You're black."
I mean, there's always been like weird messages in it, but I don't know. Does it feel like it's so much more heavy-handed than it was with the Jodie
I
Whittaker
think
thing?
it's a lot more. I think
Okay.
this is
'Cause
literally.
I felt like that was heavy-handed, so I tapped out then.
I tapped out through majority of the region of Jodie Whittaker's run because even before the Timeless Child, you knew. Okay, both Moffat and irony, one of the better episodes so far has been written by Moffat, which is sad, by the way.
I've heard praises for him, but I don't know. I'm not familiar with
Considering that Chibnall wasn't always the worst. Russell T Davies is going very mask off. Like, clearly the Doctor's a gay man whore. Basically, it's a series that I think I'll go over it towards that, but it's hard to watch it because It doesn't feel like Doctor Who. Because Doctor Who was, you could have children watch the show. And it's not like we weren't used to strong female characters. Hell, in the reboot of it, Rose Tyler was a strong female character. If you remember that, Gray.
I don't. A lot
Did you ever watch the Eccleston era with Rose Tyler?
Some of it, for sure. But I got to be honest, they kind of blend together. But
so
I did do some of the Eccleston.
Now, what's funny is Eccleston really doesn't come back because Eccleston has also said he doesn't want to come back as long as some of the current writing staff is there because they hampered his run. Which is controversial, the idea, but then again, Tennant signed off on his own character assassination. Like the guy, I can't look at the guy who was Obi-Wan straight anymore. After his whole hostage speech. Oh, if you're a racist Star Wars fan, you can't be here. So Disney held you against your will and said read the line. Understand, all because Mosley got falsely majority attacked for Obi-Wan.
I could see being so concerned with like the care harm value that you are believing that story and you are believing that it is these people trying to hurt. But I don't know. I can see how somebody could come to that conclusion. I'm hoping he's little informed on the situation, just kind of went with his feelings on it. But I don't know. I'm not ready to completely write him off.
No.
Ewan's a great actor.
Yes, he's good, but you can see why that was like a hostage statement. Blink twice after being held against your will. But Gatwa, right, has basically said during like this season of Doctor Who, he wants to do a death bomb on a boss. Looks like a drag reference of falling over. Like, okay, we get it. You're gay. But do we need to be reminded every episode?
Yeah, well, they've been kind of heavy. Now I can't remember the characters, but they've been kind of heavy that they've had very gay characters before on the show. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure that it's necessarily a new thing.
You
but
had Jack in it. You had Captain Jack, but Captain Jack wasn't an entire man whore.
Yeah, I mean, so granted, I haven't seen these, so I don't know like if there's some context for the jokes or whatever. I love double entendres. I love jokes that kind of would go over kids' heads or whatever. It makes some things a little bit more interesting if it can work on multiple audiences. That being said, I don't know what's going on here. I haven't seen any of it, so I don't know.
It's something you may have to catch.
To me, it doesn't feel like something new. It just seems like, yeah, they're definitely, they're going heavily political in this, but I feel like they've done that in the past, so that's kind of why I tuned out. So I don't know. I believe you that it seems like they've gone above and beyond with this, but I don't know. I don't think I'll ever go back, but
no, it's hard. It's hard to watch. It's like hard to watch in the season because it's an entire relaunch. There's at least 2 seasons guaranteed. It's not going well with audiences. The audience score is low. The audience view is low. Literally, the show came in with only like 2.6 and like 2.4, which is like disastrous in views for a season premiere of Doctor Who. But this was also coming off the specials. Now, granted, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Like supposedly, and we don't know if this is true or not. I've heard this from multiple sources. This companion got canned. Take it for what it's worth. She didn't get past the first season. If she got canned within the first season, supposedly there was something that happened. And as far as the follow up to X-Men 97, I don't think we're going to get any of it till next year.
I don't think so either. I can't imagine them releasing 2 seasons in 1 year. On top of that, like, it is one of the biggest hits critically, apparently not in viewership, but I just hear kind of universal praise. It really looks like the people who are against it are very in the minority for sure, and they seem to have preconceived notions going in.
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of the people, but it's like a lot of people. You ask how many people actually watched it. Because that's why I said I think they're doing the Westworld treatment.
And I hope they're not going to take that
I
long.
Really
that's definitely what killed
not.
it.
Yeah, no. There was this problem of Westworld. Very good. But eventually it's like, oh, do you want to wait a year and a half? It's like if I asked you, Gray.
If I want to do a Fallout episode and then I wait like 2 months,
I don't
know any. That's
how is House of the Dragon? You wouldn't even know they're on season 2 because when was the last one?
I mean, I think Hollywood's kind of full of that right now too, like with the Furiosa movie going 9 years after the original, like. I don't know. And then they're bringing back a whole bunch of, what was it, The Fall Guy, where it's like, that's an 80s show. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things that they're kind of, why are you striking at it now? The iron is not hot. So I don't know. The other problem with Disney is like they have things kind of mapped out. So they had plans in order. So, we need strong females. Everyone loves Frozen. We need more Frozen type stories where the person is powerful enough they're just doubting themselves.
Okay,
it feels like that is a common theme that they're using, but you gotta think like they have like 4 years in advance planned. So they recently said they're changing course. I hope that's true, but we probably wouldn't see the product of that changing course for quite a while. Maybe it makes me naive and too gullible that I'm actually believing them, but maybe. I hope X-Men 97 taught them some lessons.
So okay, here's the thing. So the season 1 started August 21st to 22 and ended October 23rd, 23 on 22. And the second season didn't premiere until June 16th of 24. I do not like that. And if you do that to X-Men 97, let's assume you wait 6 months. I guess so. Maybe a year, because you already know 2 are in the can.
Yeah, I was going to say, they have it all written. Like, Bo finished writing season 2, and they had
season a lot of it. Season 2's already been in post-production.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be able to kick this out much faster than that, but that would be a killer if they do wait that long.
And it's not that, by the way, House of Dragons is actually good. It's weirdly enough, right? By the way,
I'm looking forward to season 2.
We are going to have to go over Shogun. Supposedly, they did secure Shogun season 2, which it's going to be.
Which I joked about with you before that, like, oh yeah, but wait for season 2, and I remember you saying there will not be a season 2.
I don't know.
They find a way to make a sequel to anything, man.
I don't know. Here's my thing, but that is a separate take, by the way. The original work was a mini-series based on one novel in the Asian Stories. It was a trio of novels by the guy. First, the second novel has nothing to do with the setting, and it goes from this period because it's left vague. I get expanding the book. Maybe you get into another season right when you get to the Battle of Sekigahara, basically, which you will have to expand the budget, and it's just selling a war setting in a television show is really hard. You either need the set, you need the ability to do it, like, you see it in movies like Lord of the Rings. You see it in like Game of Thrones, but they're not cheap to do. You have to have a budget and you have to do it. And it's very cheap if you green screen it. You would need to introduce a lot of characters. you would need to introduce not just the daimyos, you need to introduce a bunch. Now, it is a good period to do a show in because the late Warring States period is incredibly good. But, like, when you're getting into the setting itself, the book itself doesn't offer anything because the book ends where the show ends. He dreams of the Battle of Sekigahara, and it's already happened. And he doesn't tell Blackthorn he burned the ship. But it ends there where he's already taken over. So
I don't know any of it, so
you're gonna have to watch.
I'll tune out for a minute.
You're gonna have to watch though. You're gonna have to get to watch that.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it. I've just been putting it off because it's quality. I want to punish myself a little bit more.
And you're gonna have to go over Masters of the Air. You will enjoy that.
I got the audiobook for that one, so I'm trying to finish that up, and then I'd like to watch the series.
Okay, so we left off with episode 4. Yes, we left off with episode 4, which is the ghouls. So that's where we left off. What do you remember from that, or do you need a refresher?
Sorry about that. I have 2 mutes, and I kept looking at the one. It's like, okay, I'm unmuted. Why am I not making noise? Yes, I do remember it. I'm trying to.
So the ghoul.
So that's when Lucy and the ghoul encounter in dangerous situations. That's when they get to the whatever you want to call it, like convenience store. Or
that's the organ harvester. Yes, because he loses.
Yeah,
it's because he loses the head with the gulper, and then he gets his drugs smashed.
Yeah. And Sparkles, that would be awesome. I'm totally down. I'm cutting together a spacey thing. So, yeah, I'm interested. I think I pegged that guy wrong. I went along with the crowd on that, and I think we were all wrong.
What? Spacey is not a grooming?
I don't think so, man. I think he is a closeted gay man who hit on a lot of men and was a little bit forward, but I'm not sure that he's the monster that we all kind of believed him to be. Hey, my neighbor's car is honking. I'll pause for a minute. Or mute. There we go. I'm just not convinced. I could have been completely wrong on that.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
the
I'm exploring that.
See, the Spacey allegations.
So he's been acquitted in 3 different trials, 1 civil and 1 criminal here in the U.S. and then 1 criminal in the U.K. I don't know, man. Internationally, the dude's been... whatever you want to call that, exonerated. He's been acquitted in these criminal charges. So I'm not sure, man. I would like to explore that further, but I'm still researching. I just think I might have been too quick to judge is all.
So, all right. So the plot of 4 goes back. It opens with because they had lost the head. Thaddeus had picked up the head, or Maximus, basically. And he's trying to make way to the radio post. See, Miss Sparkles, I'm going to have to drag you in to talk about Miss Salad. You will have fun with that one. And have to involve your favorite boy, Noel. Oh God, Noel is a trip, by the way. But the ghoul basically, sorry if I could read through the wiki, it's been a while. So the idea is going through the wasteland because they had lost the head and the tracking device, and I guess he's going to take her somewhere. Now they run into another ghoul who the ghoul was friends with, who starts to go feral.
I kind of dug that. So granted, I don't know kind of the newer Fallout So they didn't have ghouls quite the same way in the first two Fallouts that I'm like way more familiar with. But I don't know. I've heard a bunch of people complaining about the way that he's turning and the whole feral thing. I don't know. Do you hate it? Is
No,
it
I think
break lore for you?
to be fair, it's like my complaints. Listen to my complaints on Skyline Valley. God, I'm not even through Skyline Valley, and I already. You think how the Fallout TV show handled ghouls? Watch my playthrough of Skyline Valley and play through that yourself. Literally, the whole because of a reactor leak inside Vault 63, every one of almost those motherfuckers turned to ghouls. Almost the whole vault turned into fucking ghouls. And this is Bethesda's new lore. Some went ferals. There's even a scene in one of the missions where they have like a shit ton of them on ice in chambers. Stasis chambers. Yeah, so a whole vault gets exposed to radiation and they all turn to ghouls. Yeah. If people were consistent with the ghoul lore, sure. Oh, and by the way, in a span of 3 years, or like what, 1 to 2 years since the exposure, they all become skinless. Ghoulification starts immediately. Yeah. So, if you don't think they don't handle the lore well, yeah. I just take it as it goes because Fallout 76 is just an MMO that uses Fallout lore how they feel. I kind of dig Skyline Valley, but how they treat the lore with ghouls is like from what I've been seeing in the rest of the game. Ghouls are everywhere. Just like in the Fallout TV show. There's a shit ton of ghouls.
Yeah.
No one knows why. No one does. Like, literally.
Well, I mean, Fallout, you know? I guess it's exposure, but other than that, yeah. Well, I guess maybe it's not that because now there is a chemical of some kind. That,
so the chemical that... So the Fallout TV show was the first that says ghouls don't go feral immediately. Some go, depending on deterioration, they get worse. Like Fallout 3, yeah, some that didn't either have food or contact with other people. Some went batshit crazy, right? The idea is you're functionally immortal. The idea of the ghouls came from Necropolis, where Vault-Tec purposely didn't let the door close 100%. So it explodes and inflated the vault just to see what would happen. Fallout 4 expands on that because they kind of knew the idea of ghoulification, what could happen. Because there's a guy at the mobster story in Fallout 4 as part of Nick Valentine's story. He basically, so the concept, right? It's a very interesting. Ghouls can sometimes turn quicker. The show does have a couple of other. So there's a little backdrop on it, right? Because every show, kind of the setting, because 76 treats it as apparently there's a lot of healthy individuals, so they all become ghouls. I just thought it was an issue that you needed to fill space with the NPCs. But I started looking in the game and I'm like, there's more ghouls than normal. They're just everywhere. They're just like literally everywhere in 76. I'm just like, yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be way more popular now. Walton Goggins, man. Who doesn't want to play as that ghoul?
So basically, they've been asking to play as a ghoul for like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. And why not now? Who doesn't want to be Walton?
I mean, literally, you do have an entire vault. So it makes lore sense that person goes out. Now, I'm going to be pissed if I do a ghoul character and I'm not immune to radiation. But I will be honest.
Yeah, you'd kind of think you would, but I don't know.
But you know what's fun? Going on 2 days, no, I've seen any ghoul characters yet. Not one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's very weird considering in the player base of Fallout, because in the player base of Fallout 76, you will at least have one person playing a ghoul. It's like you always got that one person who feels the need to play melee weapons, then bitch and moan when the reason why we shoot stuff from far away. But yeah, so the idea of ghouls in this universe, in the show, they're tougher, immune to radiation, as they should be. Like super mutants are immune to radiation as well. That's why, like in Fallout 3, if you want to do like the coward's ending, you can commit like Strong or the mutant ally to go in there and start the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it gives you choices and you can play it really dark and you can get through it way too quick. But I don't know. I guess that's what I like about this show. It is an interesting way of kind of trying to take those options and those choices and put them into characters. I don't know that they're the best at all of the depictions of that they could be. I really hate. Now I can't remember his name. Is it Maximus? But
I don't think Maximus gets better. Like to me, it doesn't. Maximus doesn't get better. Like
he made me laugh a couple times where like that type of character worked for me. Like I kind of liked when Lucy. Well, I guess we'll get to it. It's in one of the later episodes where they make it to a vault. I thought that kind of worked for me for that character, but almost everything with the suit, I just do not like him in there. He's part. He's one of the options, but sure, they all have gladiator names.
So
he's from the Brotherhood.
No, they're not gladiators. There's.
I mean, in a sense, but yeah. Sorry, getting back to the ghouls. I thought the first encounter with the ghoul, where you kind of see what would happen if he goes feral, and then they kind of set up the stakes for that, and then they show how he stops getting feral or puts it off, if you will, with the drug. I don't know. That kind of works for me. And then,
see, technically, all four got pretty much shit upon because Hancock is supposed to be like a post-war ghoul. So it's not impossible to have new ghouls. Like, most ghouls were created when the bombs fell. Like in Fallout 3, as an example. If you weren't exposed to radiation, you became a shadow on a sidewalk. If you know what I mean.
Yes. Sorry, stupid 2-mute thing. I forgot that I was muted on the other one. Yeah, fair enough. I guess it was like the previous one, they set up that she destroyed his vials of whatever this mystery substance is. And then this one, they set up really what the stakes of that means. I kind of liked that introduction to this, other ghoul.
A little fun fact about like how ghouls, like initially the first batch of ghouls were created when radiation got into a vault. Then they suddenly realized certain people would turn into ghouls. They're like zombies. So in 3, when you meet, which is Underworld, which is a city of ghouls. A lot of people like to be around ghouls because ghouls become like zombies. They kill people and they go feral. And like one of the ones is like a daughter who said she was outside when the bombs fell. She just sees the shadow of her father. Like you can go find that location. And she's just like, why didn't I die? But most of the people who become ghouls don't immediately lose their skin. It might take place over time, but it's like in 76, it seems like everybody just becomes a desiccated husk. You know? I'm just like, okay, I get it. Honestly, I get it. Lazy development. But like in the show, right? A lot still look human, but they'll go feral over time or they lose their skin. That's like the one guy. Like he hasn't gone full, but he starts to go bad. Like as soon as that happens, they'll eat their own flesh, or they'll decay quicker. And that's the stakes. But it's just that the character of the ghoul has been around for like 200 years, 200 something years. Now you have the big thing. It's weird too. He starts. There's the cannibalism. It's weird. Like apparently ghouls heal faster.
Yeah, in this one, apparently. So it sets it, and I guess that's a later episode. So I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. But something to me that I didn't see happening.
No, you see it in the gunshot scene in the cemetery. They're literally.
Oh, fair enough. I wasn't sure what they were doing with that. If it's the fact that it's ghouls, because like he also. Oh, sorry, in the cemetery. I thought you meant in the town. Now I'm forgetting the town's name. But while he's getting shot, he like eats some fruit, and it's like, oh, okay, perhaps that's the way that he's somehow getting his stamina back or health back. But yeah, you're right. I did forget about when he does get shot. There, you do see like almost instantaneous healing.
It's like,
which is kind of new. That's because I wasn't anticipating that with ghouls.
The idea is ghoulification. You've been exposed to so much radiation that I think, what is the perk, right? Like, there's actually a perk, like, in, what is it, Fallout 4, I think. Where if
I'm not
you...
as familiar with 4.
If you are, like, if you have the ghoulish perk, you are immune to radiation, but you heal in radiation. Weird. It's kind of like, it's not like they don't pay attention to their own lore, but yeah, no. Then you get the first scene too, where he's not trying to corrupt Lucy because the ghoul is actually the evil character in the show. He's the evil character. There's no doubt he is the bad karma character.
Yeah, I don't know. He has kind of a heart at times. He doesn't just kill the dog. He allows the dog to come back multiple times. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but he's not like pure evil. He's just the darkest of the choices.
Okay, so Maximus. The reason why he's called Maximus is because he's named after the founder of the Brotherhood.
Is he even in episode 4? I'm like forgetting what he does.
Well, I don't think
doesn't he have the? Now I'm forgetting. Yeah, I guess he is in that episode. I think he had his suit shut down or something, so he's still worrying with that. No.
So it's kind of like, but yeah, no, he just puts Roger down and then has Lucy. So the alignment of the characters is Maximus is supposed to be neutral. Lucy is supposed to be good. The ghoul is supposed to be canonically evil. That's why
It's an interesting way of doing that, because you do have the choice on many decisions within the game, but then also how you create the character. I think it's an interesting way of doing that, like equating a game to a show in this way, where you're just using multiple characters to express the multiple options. I kind of dig it. I think they executed it pretty well.
They
Does
did.
it take you out at all?
No, that actually works. That's what a lot of people don't realize. I was like, yeah, these people played the game. Because Maximus is... The problem with Maximus's writing is he's awful. I hate how the Brotherhood's depicted. Because I have to say, you will see, and if this is the future of the Brotherhood, I pray for the writers. They better sell this better in game. But no, like, it goes from there because he then has Lucy to teach her about the wasteland, cut up Roger's body for food.
I mean, she's pretty naive. She needs to know how it works out here. So I don't know. I kind of like it. It worked
Part
for
of
me.
that is
tension.
Part of it's like the whole idea of that is the player character. Can the player character become corrupted? Because it is the choice of the player character to choose the bad karma path. You can do it, or you choose not to. And you start to see it a little bit. It's very much the case of Lucy won't drink irradiated water, so she drinks radiated water because she has no choice. Now, the idea in this universe, right, that radiation, unless it's just pure radiated water, I mean, how anyone survives is funny because water would kill you instantly, but they don't explain how. Like, basically, in this universe, even compared to other Fallout universes, even a puddle of water would have enough rats to pretty much kill you. Or half. See, this is why I don't agree with Miss Sparkles. If you kill a dog in a game, and if you killed dog meat, people would throw you under. One character you don't fuck with in video games is you probably don't maliciously kill the dog. This is why I've actually kicked a Chinese player or a player I used to play in Division. I kind of joked with him. I gave him a warning. He kept shooting all the dogs on the street in the game.
That sucks because, like, in Diablo, there's just like random animals on the board, and I always accidentally kill them when going for a game.
They just die. I cannot help but kill random animals because of my AoE. So, in dog meat in the universe, Fallout is very beloved. Don't mess with dog meat. Because make fun of dog meat, you will have your Twitter flooded so badly, you will be shamed off of it. Have fun with that. But no, the lore on dog meat gets weird. Like, apparently one dog meat spawned, like, hundreds of dog meats. Like, the first dog meat had, like, 200 puppies. Yeah, so that's how they explain there's a dog meat in every game. But so you go back.
In the show, doesn't it cut from there back to him learning about Vault 32, the brother character?
33, right? Yeah.
33, sorry. My bad.
So this is where they go back to the Vault. They start looking at the Vault. Because the first establishes the core storyline, which is the head. The ghoul takes break of you get flashbacks or so to kind of the ghoul story. Because the ghoul is integral to the part of the way the show flows. Unironically, like Cooper being the vault boy is at the end of the other one.
I liked it. Fair enough. I can see why that turned some people off.
I can see, and by the way, some of the writers used inspiration from the TV show on Skyline Valley.
It's pretty popular. I can see why they do that.
I can see why, but they're taking some very interesting parts. So it's like...
now it's become canon for realsies.
Actually, no. Like, as I said, part of the problem with Fallout, it's easy to reuse assets, but if you're going to take part, I would not draw it entirely. It's... I don't know. Skyline Valley, I got 2 more missions. I already knew how it was going to end because I can see the writing on the wall. It's like me, I got stuck on 1 mission, but I already know how it's going to end. And I went and looked ahead, and I'm like, huh. But that is a rant for another time. So you see the elections, right? There's new elections. They're trying to get an overseer. They want vault records. See, the elections haven't happened yet. Norm is trying to suspect something about Vault 32. He gets denied to the records. They sneak into Vault 32, and they're horrified that the vault killed themselves. Or they fought. And it's like a word lie. The dwellers killed themselves. They discovered death to management, meaning that the management, you start to see a little bit of the narrative because this was designed as a community vault. Norm basically discovers the raiders entered using his mother's Pip-Boy. Which, that's a key part that comes in later on. Because he got demoted, right? Because that's what they were. Because he didn't know about 32, you know? Now, so in Los Angeles, right? Which is, I don't like what the show did. You really destroyed. You have a very good setting, which is called Boneyard. You could have used it. The Boneyard is a very good section of Fallout. You have the entire Southern California basin you could have messed with. But the show condensed it down, moved stuff over. So the ghoul, since he doesn't have the drugs, decides to take and trade her for drugs. Basically.
Which, based. That makes sense. Use what you got. So I don't know. I like that idea. And then I absolutely love the snip robots. Matt Berry is always amazing.
Well, I don't know. Mr. Handies are... it's okay. There's a good scene in this. Like, basically the ghoul collapses outside from exhaustion or whatever. But, like, the thing in this, right, he gets trades in. She has had a finger bitten off. See, okay, here's the thing. The ghoul was able to sew his own finger back on. So, and it just works. Seriously.
But it sets up kind of the dynamics between the two, that like this one is naive and kind of doesn't think that this would be possible, but she has the world come crashing down really hard when she gets her finger bitten off.
Basically,
I like
basically that between drinking the irradiated water, then she gets traded. Now it is funny. The robot goes, I had detected imperfections. If we want to sell organs, he sews a finger onto her.
A lot of people have issues with this because he's just got a drawer full of fingers, and how are they possibly still viable to be transplanted at this point? But yeah, fair enough. It doesn't appear to be like chilled or anything. They're very gray. I don't know. I kind of like it. It works for comedic value, but yeah, if you're gonna go for like any sort of like reality, I don't know. I'm sure it breaks lore in the game. Can you just have magic transplants? Can you have magic transplants in Fallout?
Supposedly, right? It's not like it's future tech that you can't have it. Literally, like the stem packs heal.
Fair enough.
Not only the thing, they're supposed to regrow crap. It's really funny.
But yes, Miss Sparkles, the robot that does sew a finger onto her is named Snip Snip.
Yes.
The funny part, how he gets that nickname.
The funny part about it is he has to sew the finger on to make her perfect. And he goes, well, thank you for sewing the finger on. He goes, you're going to let me go now, right? I'm going to harvest your organs. I need you to be 100%. God.
Yeah, I think it's a fun turn. And then with someone as prominent as Matt Berry doing the voice for it, it just, when it drops that devastating news, it's still very straightforward and very friendly. I love it, man. It worked on so many levels for me. It was a fun turn that I didn't see coming.
Now, she then reprograms the robot, finds a way to escape the table, reprograms the robot, then takes the robot to turn on the organ harvesters. They then, I guess out of fear of their lives, but being sprayed with high-powered detergent, acidic detergent, free the people because she thinks the ghouls are human. Tries to reason with them. Now, she has to eventually kill them. Some of them get killed. Some of them get mauled. Right? Mauled people. Then she has to kill the woman who's subtly still lucid. She has to kill for the first time. So this episode is very much about her learning the harshness of the wasteland.
Yeah, and I think it works on a bunch of different levels, and then they add a lot of different, comic, whatever you want to call it, relief for all these tension and like this big learning lesson that she's getting. I like the junkies, the stoner guys on the couch. I think there's a lot of comedic effect in that.
They're like really
warning her.
They're like really weird Jay and Silent Bobs.
Yeah, for sure. I can't remember that dude's name, but I always dig the one guy. He's been in like a million things, always a little bit part like that. But I like a lot of the casting that they did for this. But that whole sequence, I really dig that part. A lot of people don't. They're saying that it really changes everything, but mainly it's just kind of this whole drug thing that it creates this whole like market that was never really in the game.
About the one he is played Huey. He's from he's like
yes, I think it's that one.
Stranger.
Yeah, I don't know why I like seeing that guy in a bunch of things. Yeah, Matt Cardarol. I don't know. Yeah, Cardaropel. Weird name, but I like seeing that dude in a bunch of different things. I don't know why. I just I like seeing that dude. But yes, that guy.
And then it ends. It has the cut scene where he's learned the secrets of. More secrets of Vault 32. Because that's part of it. Like, that's little stuff. That's like when these episodes are an hour, they are an hour. They're pretty much like 45 minutes of just weird stuff.
I think that's kind of where that one ends, right? I don't think it has anything
in that one at all. And then the ghoul goes in there, recovers, because she gives him the drugs.
Right. I forgot. She actually does follow through, even though he was willing to sell her. Somehow she decides that she's better than him and will give him the drugs that he needs.
And then he takes over the supermarket and finds a whole stash of the drugs.
based.
Which it actually leads into this part, where I think it's not this episode or the next one, where the ghoul kind of disappears. So you have Maximus, like Thaddeus he wants to be branded. Then he reveals it that he actually is not Titus. He's whatever. That's when he
is that revealed in this one?
That's when he gets trapped in the armor.
Past.
He gets trapped in the armor. She's almost dying of radiation poisoning too, by the way. Thaddeus then takes the head and then runs away. But not before getting his entire foot smashed by power armor.
Yeah. Which I thought was pretty cool. That's
actually the good thing about that's actually the kind of interesting part in this particular universe. Power armor is actually very tough. Like power armor doubles strength. Like it literally breaks the guy's foot. I mean, yeah, it can stop most bullets. Can it stop a Yogwai from ripping and slashing it? Questionable. But I'm sorry, a Yogwai should be able to not dent power armor. Maybe.
What if it's fed after midnight? You never know.
Well, yeah. See, so it goes from there, right? And then they just leave tracking it because he used Radaway to get her the excess radiation out of her. Now, it's basically the dog then leaves with Thaddeus because he has the head. Guess it proves the point. Dogs are still loyal to the owner. Now, there is a grievous thing that happens for the dog later on. But now it's not this. I don't think it's this episode. It's when they get to one of the others. But then you have the election. See, she and Soul's a tracker, right? So, Vault 33, the elections happen. See, there is a plot. This is where you start doing it.
Yeah, so we are in episode 5 then. So yeah, I guess 5 starts out with Maximus and Thaddeus celebrating retrieving the head, and then that's where the branding and the everything happens. So yeah, sorry, I was like, I swear this isn't in 4, but yeah, it looks like we're right at the beginning of 4, where Norm and Chet make their way back to 32.
Oh, it doesn't bother me. Miss Sparkles, I just make fun of it. It just tells me your moral alignment. If you do play a video game, hell, it's hard for me actually. If you actually have to play an evil character in Fallout, you do not understand how hard that is. You have to go out of your goddamn way to do it.
But yeah, in this episode, with Norm and Chet, when they're making their way back through Vault 32, trying to figure out, what exactly happened.
They've already done it. With a 98 majority, Betty gets reelected. And
yeah, fair enough. They do finally have that percentage of the votes. But I wanted to comment on when they're coming back and they see Vault 31. I love just how dark they kind of made everything in that vault. That there's a lot of mystery there, and it just really leads up to what's coming up after this vote. I just really dig that. They really set up a lot of mystery there, and you want to know what happened, why there's blood scrawled writing on the wall. I really was intrigued at that point.
I want you to remember the condition of Vault 32. That's the very important part. Now, the idea that they want to repopulate it, that is something that's going to come back later on. So there's hints. So every person who's an overseer has always come from Vault 31, been elected with the same majority. Now, you know what's funny in that list? It's one of the producers, both the man and the woman, who was at the beginning where the photo shoot. They were also overseers of 31, 33. Did you know that? Gray?
I'm not quite sure. Sorry, my dogs were freaking out. I kind of only cut the last part of that. I probably didn't know.
So do you remember the ones at the photo shoot when he was in the vault doing the Vault Boy pose?
Oh yeah.
They were in the list.
I did not see that. No, I guess I missed that, man.
Of the past. The funny part about that is that's like when you start learning there's a mystery afoot of what this really is.
And that mystery really intrigued me. I wanted to know a little bit more than we actually got.
Now, she becomes, when she gets elected, she basically proposes populating Vault 32 because Vault 33 is supposed to be a breeder vault. Now, the weird thing is 31, so it's a community vault, is what this is. So,
and then I think we skipped over a couple of Lucy and Max things. So Lucy finds Max stuck in the armor, and
we did go over
roaches.
That. Oh yeah.
Okay. And then so once she kind of saves them and they're kind of going along, then we get to that bridge encounter, and I thought that was really cool and really tense.
With the feral,
where they got to like yell out to each other. Yeah, well, kind of whatever they are, that they've survived in this harsh environment, and they obviously have weapons, and I don't know, just when you see kind of the naivete that Lucy is kind of experiencing, but still trying to kind of, I don't know, just the deal that she's trying to make with them, where they would pass these people on this kind of narrow bridge and they wouldn't attack each other.
Later. That's more later in the episode.
That's right after Betty reveals that they won by 98% of the votes. So basically, they kind of are cutting between the two stories at the same time.
He doesn't realize that they're Reavers, or they're like a faction of raiders kind of a thing. Like, they show the marks, and then there's a shootout where Maximus gets shot, and he just downplays the bleeding. And then eventually she has to... this is where when you leaving Los Angeles, right, they're going towards Shady Sands. Shady Sands was very controversial in this one, because you kind of know the future of Shady Sands. Because Shady Sands got nuked, apparently, after Fallout New Vegas. Everyone thought New Vegas was completely neglected because it got nuked. And that's where Maximus is from. Now, I still say it's a dumb plot, but when you finally understand the payoff of it, but you see flashbacks of it, like you'll see Norm, you see her as a child, you kind of gather. Moldiver, why Moldiver remembers her or knows her. So Shady Sands.
My avatar just changed. I apologize about that. I forgot that I can't use my number keys.
So the concept, right, is Shady Sands was repopulated by the NCR, became the capital of the NCR. Now, this is where you start seeing a plot hole. Bad plot hole. Apparently, the NCR is non existent, which doesn't make sense with the size of the NCR.
Yeah.
Now,
they definitely changed it depending on the games, and the something happened between them. So that's what I've heard. And a lot of people's issue is that it kind of nukes the NCR, and the whole like Shady Sands thing is
nuking,
it really changes lore.
You have over 700,000 citizens of the NCR. It goes as far as Vegas, all the way up to Colorado. Nuking one area would not stop the NCR. Might hurt them, because here's the thing. Shady Sands became a key. Post New Vegas became a main station for power going into California from Hoover Dam. So now
you so we kind of were talking about like the fate of Shady Sands, but Max kind of alludes to things didn't work out, and it was bombed several years ago. It is pretty confirmed that Max's backstory is in Shady Sands, right? Like that was where he was coming from with the Brotherhood.
Yes, because you keep seeing that. Because he was found, I guess, in India in a refrigerator near the blast. And you don't...
Which is a little wink and a nod to Indiana Jones, which is kind of fun. Good times.
So... then you have... See, they believe the whole idea of the ignorance, right? Because they don't realize people are on the outside. But here's what I want to understand is you start to have a context doesn't make sense in the show. But when Lucy sees Moldiver's people, they recognize raiders. What's wrong with that statement that she makes? They don't know about anyone on the outside, but they know about raiders.
Well, so you're right, and none of it is kind of shown in there, but they do have inter-vault communication, so like communication between each other. There probably is some reports that they would have, but you're right. It's not like they wouldn't know anything about the outside world.
That's kind of like, how did you not know the people in Lucy's backstory were raiders or not vault people? And then that's when on the bridge they have the whole thing with the encounter with the Fiends, which is like a member of a gang from New Vegas, but I guess they're in California. I didn't think about that because New Vegas lore isn't that bad. It's just weird. Like, and apparently how they follow it up is going to be funny. Both are having that standoff, and then they have to seek medical treatment because Maximus's wound is getting worse. And then they go to a Vault Tech hospital. Now, as soon as they go into a place, they fall through a floor. That's where the episode ends. They're now in episode that goes to episode 6. They are in Vault 4. Now, what do you know about Vault 4? Do you remember the black family raising the children in the picturesque TV commercial? The scientist? It's supposed to be the scientist vault. They show literally like the commercial for it. Like in the past 2 episodes. Like, do you remember when they're like in the commercial? So do you remember when
I'm kind of blanking on it, but it has been like 2 months since I watched the show.
So Cooper, basically Cooper's wife works for Vault-Tec, higher up there. Okay. Cooper, so we've known about Vault 4. Vault 4 is supposed to be a scientist vault. And during the time to test the people, see how people live, they were living down there for like 2 to 3 months or 6 months. And it's the characters, they're playing a pivotal part in Vault 4, leading to the thing. So they've teased Vault 4 for like 2 or 3 episodes in like the flashbacks and everything else. That's the beauty of this show. I'm kind of doing the summary, but not giving everyone details. I recommend to watch it because there's a lot of little Easter eggs that pay off in future episodes.
Yeah, I like I like this more than like the J.J. Abrams mystery box. I really like how his mysteries. I really like that.
Now you're cutting your own self off. That's good. I don't have to mute you periodically.
Sorry, dog barking.
So you go into what they call the trap. Now, there is a funny exchange. Now, this shows the intro with the commercial where they're going to film the commercial with the, here's the thing. The beginning of it has Howard is talking to Askins, who plays an important part at Vault-Tec, because he came from West-Tec and he worked on T-45 armor. He goes, oh, so what did you do at West-Tec? I worked on T-45 armor. Did you know that defect got a lot of good people killed? Do you remember that, Greg?
I feel like I knew that, but I don't know.
Because here's the thing about the ghoul. Here's the thing about the ghoul. The ghoul's name was Howard, and he also fought in Alaska.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And he did say that he had the familiarity and why he knew what part to take and what the weaknesses of the armor is.
Yeah, that's later on. Because the idea, right, is now he has the top guy who's the head who got incorporated into Vault-Tec, which is Askins, basically. And he says, oh, so you're the guy who didn't patch the armor default that got people killed. Now, that comes up later on, by the way, in a very weird way. And then there's a party. There's an English actor, Sebastian Leslie. Led him to be he got fired from a film who was sold his rights. So he's basically the voice of Mr. Handy's in the game and in the show. You didn't know that, did you? Okay, I see you, Miss Sparkles.
Sorry. You didn't know. It's Matt Berry. Yeah, I thought he's awesome in there. Yeah,
Sebastian.
I love that voice actor.
He is the voice for the Mr. Handys in the game, the modern games. Yeah.
I think it's awesome, man. I always love hearing that dude's voice. So yeah, I think, did we mention the vault being kind of cleaned up? I'm sorry, I'll shut up my bird.
I don't know. That's not until they repopulate it, right? No, that's not this episode. I think it's one of the later episodes. Not yet. So the whole thing, right, is there's this whole thing, because if you do not know about the world of Fallout, like post the resource war, which is really funny. Like there's that 10-year period when Anchorage was one of the last supplies of oil, and also the last supplies of uranium, because they started having a uranium shortage. Now there's a period, right? It's the hall, and it's in 3 that you never could explore. It's only the period like leading up to like the resource wars that goes to Alaska. Like, so you have this period like in Fallout. They kind of slowly explain it, because that's actually why I think the male survivor in 4 is actually supposed to be a combat veteran in reality. That is actually the point of the world was eventually falling apart, because it plays very important into the conversation the two have at the party, by the way. They understand the world is changing. You could be kicked out of Hollywood. Do you remember the one with the scene where he's filming the movie? He goes, "Why do I have to kill the guy? That's not what people want."
Kind of an awesome. Yeah. People like Westerns to be kind of killing, but it sounds like this dude wanted to do more dramatic work. I get it. You want to do more meaningful stuff rather than just action.
But it was kind of like, but he realizes at the end he has to settle. It goes back to that moment. He has to realize he has to go back and kill him, because there's that corporate size. We got Vault-Tec. We got investors we have to take care of.
Yeah, I don't remember which episode that's in.
That's the one before, like, where he's doing the. It starts off with a Western.
Because this one, Max is talking about Shady Sands, and then they go to like that medical lab for supplies, and they happen to be dropped through the floor.
This is the whole thing. What I'm talking about is the little drops of the backstory you see.
For sure. And it's kind of given throughout there, but I don't think any of that's like in this episode. And we're like right up at the end of episode 5.
No, it goes into the beginning, right? Because he's talking about the changing world. Like, he realizes he sold his voice to become the voice of Mr. Handy's. He goes, "I got given a Mr. Handy, and I have to hear my own voice all the time. I became a product. You will become a product with your stuff you're doing. The future is becoming a product." You don't remember that discussion?
Yeah, no, I do. That's all at the start of episode 6. Like, so there's a few things that we glossed over at the end of 5. So that is when Betty announces that they'll be renovating Vault 32, and they see that like just 24 hours prior, they saw a bunch of death and decay inside that vault, and it's already cleaned up. So we have a weird mystery there. And then, Lucy and Max wake up on cots in the small intake room underground and find themselves in a vault, which kind of leaves you on a happy note. And then we get into episode 6, where it does have that pre-war commercial, and we're kind of going from there. I had kind of forgot the order, and I just kind of looked it up really quick, and it's like, oh, yeah. I remember thinking like, okay, so they're in a vault. This could be really awesome. And
but I
was kind of looking forward to them.
They give the hint at Vault 4 long before like the last over 2 episodes. Like, he's been doing work for Vault-Tec. I mean, and then they show a vault, because before they meet the family kind of thing that's there, that's because the scientists and they're here, and they actually play a part in Vault 4's past kind of thing. Because the idea of the world of Fallout, because a good thing about the Fallout television show is we're learning about the world as it was. Because a lot of people don't understand. The Fallout world in the main canon sometimes makes sense and sometimes doesn't. Everyone was close to nuclear war, kind of a thing. U.S. was already still invading China, which forced their hand. I mean, there is a controversial take in this show later on that everyone else gets wrong, because Shady Sands, this is the infamous episode that a lot of people hate. Particularly because of the chalkboard. Now,
yeah, there's, I guess, ways to interpret that, but I think they're stretching to come up with the outrage.
So the whole idea, right, is, and people thought it was weird. Why would a vault have a mutant over in it? Now there is the funny thing while they're in quarantine. Right, they're greeted by like Birdie, which is a Shady Sand survivor, and Ben, the overseer. It's very weird. It's like a different vault. What a different vault looks like. I mean, other vault people don't know what other vaults look like, really, because every vault's supposed to be different. The funny part is, they decide to open their doors to the surface, which it's kind of weird. There's a clue to that later. Now,
yeah,
there is a funny thing in here. Do you remember the funny dialogue when they were in the chamber? They're all like, "Oh, it's just the two of us in the room," and they are all like making googly eyes at each other. They're like, "Why don't we have sex?" And he doesn't realize how his dick works.
Yeah, which I don't know.
like,
A lot of people had issues with.
It's just like
with the character of Lucy that like this makes her a whore. It's like I don't know. She just went through hell. This is the only nice person that she's met in this entire, alien world to her. I don't know. It doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, and I thought it worked for comedic effect. But apparently, it offended quite a few.
It's not really that. No, because everyone's trying to, which you don't understand. They're taught from how stuff works, and she's like from a breeder vault. She knows what sex is.
For sure.
There's jokes.
This is also the only good person she's met in I don't know how long, and life has been threatened numerous times
as well. She actually wants to have sex with him because, like, the idea, it's like, yeah, Chet, you're adorable, but you're like my first cousin or third cousin kind of thing. We need to stop doing this.
That's the other reason why supposedly she's a harlot and everyone should hate her.
Okay. It's not like down in the vaults they would not know what sex is. But in the surface, it's the Brotherhood bred soldiers having sex or interest. He goes, "Don't you know what your dick does when you finish? Climax and masturbation? What's that?" That's actually the funny dialogue. You're like, well, they're in the little like quarantine chamber before they come out. So it's like, it shows the contrasting characters, right? It's like, oh, it's not because he's a soldier. They just don't develop feelings or nothing, I guess. He's like 25 and he's like in his like 20s or so. Or like, and he's never masturbated. It's like,
yeah, if he is in like a military type society, maybe they have drugs to take away from that, or maybe fighting for your life.
Somehow. It's contradicted.
It seems like it would come up.
Bro, it's contradicted because in the camp scene, they show the guys doing that.
I don't remember, but I'll take your word for it. But I don't know. I think it's just played off for comedic effect. They're both innocent in that way.
The show's kind of for kids, but not for kids. But it is not. It pulls the graphic line. It pulls right to that MA line, but it's not MA. So they eventually understand, like in Default 4, right? Now, see, there's also another problem in this episode. Apparently, the vault's powered by a fusion battery. If you take that fusion battery, the vault will die.
And it's convenient that it fits in the exact same slot as the power armor. Good times.
Which doesn't make sense. Every reactor in a Vault-Tec facility should have its own goddamn super reactor. But it's apparently powered by a fusion cell. By the way, they also found his power armor. Which is weird, by the way.
Did they? I must have missed that. I think I only watched this episode like once, but I did wonder how he got his suit so fast and how he was able to like put their core into it that fast. But that makes sense if they were the ones who found it and they were like holding it somewhere.
They found it. But Maximus has said because he's trained so much for war, they don't think about sex. So it's like, oh. They're also told to stay out of floor 12. I guess. And Lucy goes... now, but the whole thing is they walk through a classroom. It shows a New California Republic flag, as well as discovers a classroom with a chalkboard that says the fall of Shady Sands leading into a nuke. Everyone thought that New Vegas didn't happen. But then Todd Howard had to come out and say, after the events of New Vegas is the destruction of Shady Sands. So do the math on that. And that means after New Vegas, Shady Sands gets nuked. Maybe a year or two. Something like that. But there's even, if you go back and play Vegas, there's even hints that Shady Sands was a hellhole of sorts. Now, it cuts back too because the idea of waking up in the supermarket, the ghoul gets captured by local authorities and a man calling himself the governor. Probably the governor. And brought before them. You remember that or no? Wow, you realize you don't mute yourself that badly.
Sorry, parrot issue this time. She just started screaming. Yes, I do remember that. It is. Sorry, parrots again. Yes, I remember it, sir.
So he also goes back and says, oh, there's a wanted poster for the ghoul. That's why he got picked up. Because, oh, you murdered all these people here. No, they're just trying to reason to pick him up. And there's like a wanted poster for him. There's also a wanted poster for Moldiver. Because here's the thing about Moldiver. She's not really talked about a lot. Like she is somebody important. Which you find out later. See, he's astounded by the poster and he goes, how does she look so young? I mean, that's not the way I remember her. Then goes back to a communist meeting. You remember I think it's like the Indian guy or the Mexican guy that was in the shootout? He got shot. Or like works with Cooper on the Cowboy Show. He was a suspected communist. He went to a communist meeting inside a mausoleum. Because this is so the Fallout world is what would happen if you had a lot of ultra-nationalism take over. It's corporatism and ultra-nationalism. It's not like fascism, you know what I mean? It's basically like, oh, if you don't believe in democracy, you're a communist kind of thing. Very far what nationalist system would be. Pure. Like 50s or 60s is really what defines Fallout. Like 70s, you kind of have that, but you don't have the radicalizing. You have basically patriotism is at max to like 1 million. You know what I mean? Gray? Because you know what I'm talking about. That's like in Fallout. So if you got called a communist, you were blacklisted.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of had an issue with the show bringing it up, but I don't know if they're just not familiar with the setting or
They're not
what. Because
familiar with the setting because the setting is if you took the idea of patriotic nationalism to a level unheard of. You know, now the idea is he goes to this meeting and he chooses to go because after, because wouldn't that make you a communist? He meets Moldiver, a younger Moldiver, who knows who he is and asks. She was working on cold fusion. Get it? Chip in the neck blows blue. Which and Voltec stole it. And he says, if you don't believe me, use this bug and listen to your wife. Sync it up. He chooses not to do it and he starts to listen. Then it goes to Vault 4. She sees basically they have a ritual. The Shady Sands people, where they remember it, cover themselves in ashes and drink blood, I guess, or whatever. Worship the Flame Mother, which is Moldiver. She then descends to Vault level 12 and discovers the secret of it. Now, this is the weird part. I guess it would explain why gulpers have fingers in their mouths. Because there was stuff like they used humans to potentially breed, or human DNA to breed monsters, or they're the result like death claws. Apparently, gulpers were used to basically breed. Humans were basically used to breed gulpers. Um, and Birdie tried to hide it, basically. I guess, and that's why they killed the original overseer and scientist in the book.
yeah, and I was a little unclear because they show like the video of like a woman birthing these creatures and then them like eating her immediately. So I was unclear if they just use them as like a surrogate or if they, like actually were using the DNA. So you were thinking that it's DNA of the people mixed in with it?
Combination, yeah.
I mean, that would make sense with the fingers in the mouth.
Because if you look, even I guess, because gulpers are weird, because there's like the idea death claws just don't pop up out of nowhere. Combination of FEV. Because, okay, there's another weird part about Fallout people don't get. So West Tech decides to, it's hinted at later on, what they wanted to do with their vault or one of their facilities. But it's always been commonly known that when the bombs hit, it hit a West Tech facility, releasing FEV into the atmosphere. That's the forced evolutionary virus.
Yeah, which takes place heavily in. I guess the later games aren't as heavy into it, but yeah.
Basically, the idea of, and then the virus got carried on the winds, basically. So, you think radiation is bad? Bombs were bad? FEV got out across the world and spread through the world's winds. Yeah, think about that when you play Fallout. So, the concept is certain creatures change. And there's this whole thing too, is after they realize that like they're gonna kill her for going down there. But they choose to exile her. Cut her free and exile her with like a couple of days of food. Because death in the wasteland is imminent. Which is kind of comedical because they came from outside.
Yeah, and then they're yes, that is ironic.
Now, the weird part, right, is in the weird. And then you go to the episode called The Radio, which is episode 7, penultimate episode. Now, so now there's the whole thing. There's another flashback. Howard and Moldiver, who goes by Miss Williams at this time, so this is where I said they get into her talking more about, because they said that Vault-Tec had been trying to basically drum up more of a crisis to create a war. Now, this is the controversial episode. This is another moment of the very, which idiots kind of blew out of proportion and fuck the normies. If you don't understand, normies need to do a little bit of research before they get into a show. Just like the Shady Sands moment, this has one. Now, they're being accused of being war profiteering, basically saying you've killed the idea of cold fusion. They buried her research. They've researched other stuff, and the resource war is just an artificial war that people were playing chicken with. Like the lack of resources, the idea of lack of resources. Because you really have never had the explanation of the resources, why resources were drying up. You kind of figured it's like us with oil, or so. They used uranium for everything. So it made sense they would have started burning through the more common sources of uranium. Because uranium in reactors were used in everything since like the 50s, basically. And if you think how much you need, hell, even now, like if we brought all our nuclear plants online, we would need more uranium than we need now. Because we were, I think, as of when Hillary Clinton did the Uranium One deal, we were already short standards of like 20% uranium for just the facilities then. So yeah, you would have had a massive resource issue. There's also a reason why uranium is a government resource. You didn't know that, did you, Gray? It's a projected.
No, it is. Yeah, I have family who lived near uranium. Anyway, there's been particular complications due to uranium in particular with a lot of people who get.
But it's also
assistance from the government. Yeah,
but
it's
there's
definitely
also a resource. It's not a common resource, and it was used in Fallout. You got to understand, it was used to power almost everything. So the idea that they would take cold fusion research, shelve it, like what's the famous documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car? I know you've heard of it. Like the idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that one.
The oil.
There's been a bunch of claims too, like that there's supposedly like engines that can run on water or something like that. You know, they all get kind of bought up, shut down. But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. And she asked to say, if you get suspicious, listen to Barb, because this is where they're baiting the idea of cold fusion. Now. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the part where they get exiled in a mock execution because you're going to die. And Maximus basically, with the power armor, steals the core. And basically, see, apparently fusion cores are rare in this universe. Which
very rare, and he damns the entire vault to die by taking it. But
it's like I'm gonna take it and not give it back, but tosses it back down and leaves the power armor there. Maybe they go back in season 2 and get it. Who knows? Now, the funny part. Okay, there's a part in this episode. All right. I think it's with this one. Yeah, in the tower. Yeah, it's in this episode, yes. The fiddle station or the violin station. Do you know about it?
Possibly. It's not ringing a bell right now. Why don't you tell me?
Okay, when I get to it. There's a station in Fallout 3 and in Fallout 4. Where they
Definitely
play.
less familiar with those two games, so probably not. It's probably over my head.
Okay. Really, go back and play Fallout 4. Fallout 4 just got more of an update, and then they got free quests. Come on. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I got way too addicted to games, so I tried to stop for a while, and I never made it to 4. I do, man, like way too easily. But that's neither here nor there. I would like to try it. I'm a whatever casual at Fallout.
4 has a couple of playthroughs through it, but it depends on how much you're exploring versus doing the thing. So the idea, he refills, and I guess he stole it, and basically she gets him to return it, and then he has to leave the power armor outside of the station, out of the vault, or Vault 4, which it's going to be funny if they go back to that. Thaddeus has to go find a radio station. Apparently abandons dog meat inside of a frozen Coke, or a cold Coke machine to stop from following, because it keeps following the head. Because he doesn't shoot the dog, it's just, you'll survive, I'll leave you there. Now, I'll forget there. He encounters a snake oil salesman, the one that was fucking the chickens.
But I love the way that he meets him, because isn't he like literally wrapping his toe around the trigger of a shotgun right as he hears him passing?
Yeah,
I thought that was a great reintroduction to this character, and then he realizes instead of roadblocking myself, I can actually fleece one more person. And, he offers him a way to heal from his much crushed foot.
Well, there's the thing about him. There's the idea, is he a ghoul or not? I kind of figured he was a ghoul because he acted funny around chickens.
He definitely acts funny. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you think he would be rich enough to afford enough of the whatever... Well, like random chemical that keeps them from like super ghouling out, from going feral?
Possibly. I mean, he basically...
Just for him to not look like a ghoul, like wouldn't he have to be on a pretty heavy dose regularly? I would assume. Pretty
much. He's either that or some sort of mutant, because it's implied that earlier when you first meet him, he gets accused of either looking funny at the chickens or trying to fuck the chickens. And the idea is ghouls go after chickens. So maybe he isn't, but he's cognitive enough, or he's just a mutant.
For sure. They set that up. And I don't know, it's kind of a fun misdirect, because you assume that he's like trying to steal the guy's chickens or trying to eat them. So I don't know, you kind of assume that the other guy is the bad guy in this situation. Then you learn, like, no, that dude was trying to do his chickens. Like, that's... I like this character in how sleazy he is. And they do some really fun introductions for him, I should say.
And the only other time you see him is you see him in, like, it's like not in the town doing a vendor thing. Because he's a snake oil salesman. So he gets the guy fixed up because he trades him the core, and he gets Thaddeus in exchange, I guess, heals him up, I guess. He gets the FEV. That's why he heals. He goes...
So you think it is FEV? So the way that I had heard it interpreted a ton was that he makes him a ghoul now. And this is what shows that ghouls are impervious to anything. So,
Well, the idea...
I hadn't heard FEV. I'd always heard just ghouls.
Ghouls are a product of a bunch of other stuff. Because the idea is they said ghouls could have been created from either radically bad, very radically irradiated humans or from FEV virus. There's like FEV ghouls post because FEV is in the atmosphere. Like direct FEV injection can cause mutations. So, like, Fallout 76 plays with this more, with the idea you could be mutated, but you're not, like, and you might have some negative effects or something, but it's not.
That makes a lot of sense. I actually hadn't interpreted it that way, and a lot of people's criticism was kind of that now you're saying that essentially ghouls are immortal or whatever, because I guess we'll get to it when we get to it. But after this, based on what this snake oil salesman did to him, like you do see his foot immediately kind of heal and like the bones kind of come back together and hey, he can walk again.
So
Something happened that healed him kind of instantly, but this wasn't a stem pack.
So the thing too is, right, because like there's other forms of FEV that had to be perfected. Like the master needed good stock humans. This is from lore from Fallout 1 to basically dip in directly into the vats to create super mutants. But it's not like super mutants could breed either because super mutants were sterile. But super mutants are functionally immortal, but they have to be created from good stock humans.
So that kind of changes the way that I think a bunch of people have been interpreting it. I just assumed that he was a ghoul, so he was like the early stages of what we have with Walton Goggins, and
He's
eventually
like
he'll start getting the
ghoul,
leathery skin.
Like, yeah, he just hasn't gotten there. And then that's why he could heal. Because he goes, so yeah, I'll have to worry about the rats now and other stuff. And he goes, oh, my boy, you ain't going to have to worry about that at all.
Yeah. And so are we talking about when he gets to the radio station yet, or are we going to
wait on that? He's been healed. He hasn't gotten to the radio station.
Fair enough. But he's looking for a way to contact them. So now that's his next mission. Now that he's magically healed due to the snake oil.
Technically, he's already shoved the dog into, like, the freezer kind of the thing.
Which is unacceptable. No animal cruelty. But yeah, he got rid of dog meat. Unacceptable.
Now, that's when he does it because he goes past. He's like, yeah, the dog keeps following me. He's going to give me away. Now, this is where they get to the radio station. The guy inside the radio station. And it's the fiddle station, or the violin station. Now, there's two interpretations of this. It's either inspired in Fallout 3 after Agatha's violin station, or then there's also a violin station comedically and violin and fiddle station in Fallout 4. He goes, yeah, people always get annoyed by my station and always want to kill me or destroy it, so I have all these traps around here.
It makes sense. It's a tough business.
Yeah, no, that's where the line comes from. Because it comes from like 4, a combination of Fallout 3 and more 4, I guess, because Fallout 4, he goes, yeah, people always complain, but I still play it. The station, it's like, but it comes from there. Like the joke of the violin, that station is always there. Because you can tell the people, this is the funny thing about this series. They played the games. It's not like The Acolyte or something else, or Doctor Who. It's a skin suit that they screw with the lore. They actually use the setting. That's why I have faith they could pull off the season 2 with New Vegas, which is supposed to be getting a remaster, but they didn't come out. Now, the thing about it is, he gets like the whole thing, right? He triggers a trap and he gets shot through the neck. They arrive shortly because Maximus sees it. And he goes, "How are you not dead?" And he rapidly heals from that. That's when he says, "Thaddeus, you've
He
become a
happens
ghoul
to
or a mutant."
yeah, he happens to catch an arrow with his neck, which he magically heals instantly from, which would imply, he has some special abilities now. So I thought everyone's interpretation was that he's a ghoul, but that actually kind of makes it seem more sense if somehow
Well,
it's
I
like
mean, the
FEV.
Brotherhood would still kill him if he's a mutant.
Oh, for sure. But I guess you just kind of made me see something that I hadn't seen before. I guess I had just assumed that it was just the same ghoul as the ghoul, but FEV, I get you.
Now, they said they are looking for a head, so he has to take a random head off Spike. And
Well, I
then
mean, you got to mess it up a little bit first, unpretty
then
it.
he takes the other head away as well. She takes the head to Moldheimer. I mean, the whole thing is she has to go to the observatory. The whole thing is they have to learn about the observatory. Basically, that's where Moldheimer has been. Now, the thing about in this, I think it's not. Uh, there's the thing of. I want to say it's in this episode when the guy's listening in on the wife, because the big moment people hate is maybe in this episode or the next one. I forget which it is. It's the idea Vault-Tec started the war, which there was massive pushback from everybody because idiots were like, "Yeah, but there's the screw in the lore." No, the
I
official
think that's
lore,
the next one. I think it's the big finale. You kind of
the
figure that out.
beginning.
But I don't think they.
But
Well, I mean, we can
there's a
all.
whole. Let me say this: they don't explain this really. They don't explain it from the very beginning. Why did was Goggins divorced, or did he get put on a blacklist? Like you kind of, there's been the idea they're trying to timeline the show or the past because it's done by the people who did Westworld. So they do play with the time element, right? Because technically, I'll explain it more in the final one part episode, which is because you have to see how they stick the landing. Because they know about the observatory, but it's weird. But I will say this. I don't like how the Brotherhood's depicted, and you see the failing of it in the next episode.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. And there is a little bit at the end of this one where there is kind of the dog meat thing where dog meat is trying to cuddle with the ghoul who's sitting by a fire, and he tells the dog like you're not him, and it kind of makes you understand why he doesn't have this affection towards the dog because there
Well,
is only one
I
dog for him.
forgot. The reason why he gets weird is because Vault-Tec wouldn't allow pets in there.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And he goes,
So,
"Oh, the little girl would have to go in there without their dog." And by the way, Miss Sparkles, you're a heathen for not liking Westworld, at least season 1.
season 1 is pretty amazing. I love that show, but it
Season
fell
1
off
and
hard.
season 1 and season 2 developing into the maze was probably the better. There is fall off. But I'm sorry, Miss Sparkles, you're a fan of Batwoman. So she responds to that one. No, but actually, Westworld season 1 and season 2 were good. But the concept is when you got towards the future world aspect, that's when it falls apart. And unironically, it's the same person who does the Fallout TV show. So, if you know that, Jonathan Nolan.
Yeah. Brother of Christopher Nolan.
Because
for a
that's
few
why they're.
films.
Because what's funny about the first season, and when I watched the Fallout TV show, they used the past, like two time periods, but then they sync it up. So uh basically it's the end of this episode where everyone goes to Vault 32.
Yeah. Which
And
it's setting up a lot of I like everything that it's set up. It set up this huge finale, and it's gonna pay some stuff off here. I'm sorry, man. I gotta take off. I was kind of thinking we could get through this a little bit faster, but sorry, I don't think I'll be able to stick around for the last one. If you want to cover episode 8 later, I'd be down. Or if you want to cover it on your own, I'm
probably
totally down to
cover
come
it
back and just.
later. Yes, you
Okay.
could if you have to get off. Let's retitle it. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's that much different because episode 8 isn't. There's not a lot. To be fair, I mean, how long you got? Or you have to take off?
Gotta take off like right now. If I don't leave within the next 5, I'm gonna miss the important meeting I must get to. But
I
yeah,
will
man.
go. The
I wanted
finale,
to hear
though,
some of your theories for season 2. So I definitely want to talk to you about it again. But yeah, if you want to cover
we'll
and
have
finish
to
out the
because the
recaps,
finale,
now
right, is because if you haven't learned, because there's a lot of build up. Now the question is, they have to do the landing. That's the biggest problem. The thing,
yeah, and the cliffhanger for me is to find out if you thought that they stuck the landing. But yeah, man. I will talk to you later. Thanks for letting me be a part of the stream, and I love talking about Fallout, man. That's awesome. I will talk to you later, sir.
well, then it's just that. No, so the big thing about Fallout leading to the penultimate episode is now Norm has basically been discovering communications with Vault 31. Now, the thing is, right? So the blonde with the baby who's in the earlier episodes, who has been in the one eye, she takes over. Basically, Vault 31, it's very key. The Vault mystery pays off. Now, like, the beginning, right, goes back and ties up the things. Now, it's the beginning that has issues. Well, I say that because the idea of Vault-Tec dropped the first nuke that started the war doesn't make sense because all lore by canon, China launched the first nuke. Partly because they were getting invaded, but details. Basically, people felt. See, the beginning, right, is weird. Like, the world of Fallout, the show is different. Like, it's kind of silly because it's the destruction of the Brotherhood as it stands. And this doesn't matter really as much as unless you play the video games. This is supposed to be the future of it. They're it's weird because the Brotherhood is just basically thugs with technology. They've decayed that much. But the Elder applauds dishonor, lying, everything else. It's not like, oh, the reason why Maximus couldn't ascend even though he brought the head. He goes, but I know where the head is. The idea that they shit on the NCR. Now, it could be the case that the NCR abandoned Shady Sands. Because the NCR takes over Philly. They just murdered everybody there. Like, there is a lot of payoffs in this episode. After I go over it, because I'll have to go over it with, like, Gray, but there's a ghoul at the table. Charred ghoul. You have Hank in a cage. The ghoul is the mother. Now, there are certain parts, right, in this. It's a lot more to go into, and I'll explain this first part. Because the cracks, it's not that it shows, right? So Hank, by the way, if you haven't guessed, Hank basically went to Shady Sands, nuked it to get the children back, killed his wife. She just happened to turn into a ghoul. Now, it's implied that she and Moldiver were lovers. Her Pip-Boy was used to break into Vault 32. Now, the thing about this is, right, is... But the idea that the Brotherhood is just pitiless order of thugs, that is a very big contention. Because I highly doubt Maximus's order, if it was Maximus from the East Coast, the order would have decayed that much. Unless this was a subchapter. Now, Norm, at the end of the last episode, is granted entry into Vault 31. See, this is where you have to tie all the loose ends together. This episode does it. Now, it doesn't make people like the Brotherhood better, because the Brotherhood it's always never set well with me. They're just like but they're technology and they're stupid. The NCR is not there. NCR has been reduced to Raiders, but they don't say it's been reduced to Raiders. Because one of the main facilities used is the Griffith Observatory. That's in the universe because Shady Sands was the capital of the NCR. Shady Sands was moved for the show closer to the LA basin. It was furthest away because it was going to be the last attacked by the Master. Just to give you the idea. So 31. Because the reveal about 31. See, 31, right? Death to management. Now, if I explain this, it's going to sound weird. Okay? To the people still. Okay. He's approached by a brain in a jar on a thing that let him in. He goes, "Well, you're not betting." No. Takes him in. That's Bud Askins, who was leading a management program, hinted at in another episode, to make future business people middle market managers to lead companies so Vault-Tec could control them. You get my drift. That's what Vault 31 is. Vault 31 is a cryo vault. Because he goes in, he finds a bunch of people frozen. Now, it leads into the really, really big twist. You have a table. And this is where it gets a little more controversial. This is where a lot of people hate it. This is where, if you're not familiar with the game lore, I guess it doesn't make sense. You have House. You have the guy from Leon von Felden, from the head of West Tech. You have Julia Masters, the head of Repcon. You have Robert House, the head of Robco. You have Frederick Sinclair, the head of Big Mountain. And you have Barbara and Bud themselves. They're talking about having Vault 31, 33 as interconnected vaults. Now, Barb assures them, sure, if we have to start the war, we will start the war. Now, don't take it as a grain of absolute salt. This isn't full lore. Now, this is hinted at. This does not change the fact that the Vault-Tec had some nukes. Like Fallout 3's nuke in Megaton is a Vault-Tec nuke. Okay? They did not have full access to the arsenal. Like in 76, the prime example, it's implied that 76's role was to secure the nuclear arsenal. To be fair, a lot of the lore there is evolving to a degree on its own. Well, see, the thing about it is he was either going to starve or die, basically, so Norm goes into his father's chamber. Basically. Because Bud basically reveals the whole thing. That's the reason why Vault 33. Didn't they say, if you're familiar with Repcon, Robco, see, Robert House wouldn't have been in his stasis chamber or chamber by this time. So clearly this was a year or so before the bombs dropped, or very early 2077, when the backstory takes place. Now you have West Tech talks about having a facility. You have Big Mountain. And that's when you have the New Vegas DLC. You have the New Vegas DLC is in Big Mountain. He goes, oh, we'll invest in brains. You have Repcon. Repcon was given vaults unto themselves. Now, a lot of this is not unless you know the game. But there's a mysterious person in the rafters of above, which could have either been the president or somebody else that we don't know. Because the idea of Vault-Tec was very much behind stuff. They're like People say it destroys House. House would go along. No, House would have not been. He knew nuclear war was coming by October, but he started to sure up uh, Las Vegas, which wasn't really a gambling hub. Wasn't until around April or May. So there's an entire timeline. So a lot of it is the whole thing. Now, because the idea of the big reveal with Moldiver, no one really explains who Moldiver is. Moldiver, you get a couple of things in the past. This is even what got me is, how is Moldiver still young? Was she frozen? Did she come from another vault? Or did she get herself into the vault program? Now, she discovered something was siphoning 32's water and concluded civilization returned to the surface. The idea that Rose discovered that and then she took the children. Now, Hank tracked it down and destroyed the city with a nuclear device. Okay. This is where you have to tie the series up in a long bow, and I'll go over this with Corey. But the idea, right, is Shady Sands was destroyed by Hank, who is also one of the frozen middle managers that Cooper met in the past. That's why he remembers the name McLean. Now, I guess it took 200 years, and that's how they got the cold fusion. But she got her cold fusion reactor. But it requires a Vault-Tec representative to know. And the father gives the code. Now, this is the whole thing when the series is like, does it have a game-changing potential? Basically, cold fusion happens and powers up the entire baseline. But right as this happens, the Brotherhood attacks the observatory. Now, the fight's actually pretty interesting because there isn't a bunch of power armor. There's like maybe 10 suits. Things are getting hit. It's supposed to be T60, by the way. T60 power armor. But there's a scene that's cool with the ghoul. The ghoul's like, I wonder if the weakness is still there. And it's the weakness in the double weld in the chest piece. Right below the chest piece. So he takes out one, then he takes the other. Now, there's a big scene of, does Hank get... Eventually there's a battle. Fights with the Brotherhood, I guess. He uses special ammo to do it, but kills multiple knights. There's a big outside, but eventually the Brotherhood wins. I mean, it's not like the Brotherhood wasn't going to win. Brotherhood takes the observatory, and Moldiver, who's already mortally wounded, is pretty much like, so what are you going to do? What do you think Brotherhood that's corrupt is going to do? Because part of it is the reason they didn't kill Titus or him was because he wants to rebuild a new order. him and the Elder. He'll be the backbone of it. Now, will they pay that off? But also, it's weird, by the way. Basically, instead of shooting Hank, I guess, it's because Hank was responsible for Shady Sands. Basically, he gets frees. Hank frees her father, but instead of shooting him, he reprieves. Then he takes off with the power arm, which leads to the cliffhanger, right? He basically, but then there's a big fight. I guess the ghoul got away. Hank basically gets refused by his daughter to go with him. And Lucy then shoots her own mother to end her suffering. Then they depart. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens. I'm seeing what Gray's take on it is. Because it's a really good ending. Because he wasn't really the one that finished off Moldiver. Moldiver was already dead, so he gets false glory. Because his whole reputation is built upon being this fake hero or this fake personality. Now, it's a both thing that loves and hate him. He's like the cowardice hero who gets praise. It doesn't make the Brotherhood better. Basically, the Brotherhood and basically, like, the question is, what would the Brotherhood do with unlimited power? Dane arrives and basically proclaims him the hero. So it ends with him as the hero of the chapter. Because, like, it's a finale. It's a longer finale because there's a lot of weird stuff you break into. Because, and this is where it's weird. Hank takes off. You don't know where he goes. Because everyone figured it was going to be Vegas. But bear in mind, it doesn't make sense, right? Because House. This is why everyone thinks they're going to ruin House. And probably New Vegas. So it ends with Dogmeat, Lucy, and them heading to New Vegas. But apparently the battery lasts long enough to get to Vegas. But yeah, it's a weird finale. Like how it leads off, it's good, but it's that opening that goes to Vegas. Because we don't know about the state of Vegas. Like, New Vegas is a very much a cult-like fan. Even if it's not my favorite Fallout, it has a good story. Basically. It has a decent setting. Because it is meant to cap off the West. Because New Vegas takes place right around the time Fallout 4 takes place. Or after. Or slightly before. Because how it ties up, there's a lot of little events in between. Cameos, ideas. And it does tie up well. That's why I recommend you see it. People see it. Because the Fallout TV show, right? It's now, it does have teasers, like the idea, because they were told with New Vegas, same with the show, don't make any ending canon. So that means, sure. See, it's implied Vegas has bomb holes in the walls, that something happened. Not nuked by Miss Stretch, but there's definitely battle scars. So either the NCR attacked it, or the Brotherhood or somebody attacked it. But then again, we won't find out for like another 2 years or a year and a half until we find it. Because because it was a contentious doubt if season 2 was greenlit. But season 2 got greenlit very quickly. So it's going to be funny with how they do it and how they handle it. Because New Vegas is supposed to have, see, like when he gets there, he steps on a shit. That's Claw Skull, basically. So it will be interesting. But yeah, I think that's about that, because let's see what Gray's thoughts are. Because is it good? It is a longer episode too. Like, I would be very curious if you go more into the backstory of the ghoul. Because I think the ghoul's going to know. Because his whole mission is he's been trying to search for his family that got into vaults. But yeah, I'll end it there, and then I'll probably stream. I got 2 more. Well, actually, I got 2 more missions before the finale in 76. But I may take a slight break and then go in there. So there's just 2 more missions. I mean, Skyline Valley is good, but I'll have to get my thoughts and tell what it is. I'll probably be one of the first ones all the way through it, because not a lot of people have gotten through Skyline Valley. I want to see what the payoff is, because I saw one of it, but it's a weird. It's predictable, but it's not. The evil. If you see me play it, it's like the evil overseer or the manipulative, because there is ability to save Alex, but Alex then kills Aubrey if you take the book back. So it's probably better off that she gets killed, which is interesting. But in reality, there is no option to convince her. Now, that's probably some plot problems, to be honest with. I think with Skyline Valley, but Skyline Valley was supposedly done in the works, like right around when they were working on the Fallout TV show. Because there's like scenes par for par, like with settings in the show. At least some concept art. Because, like, if you see the missions, but different things, different. I wouldn't say they're the same, though. But yeah, I will finish that up tonight. But yeah, it's pretty good. But I'm lucky that I didn't get the early quest bugs. But there is a lot of quest bugs towards it, some parts. But oh no, I don't know when to get that done. this. Yep. But I'm going to go take a break, probably lay down for an hour or two and be back. Catch people though.